hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb and Friends here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us here on Amazon, glad you found us. Right before Prime Day begins, we have 2 more days. So if you guys are not following us here on Amazon, make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You also will see some, and I stress some of the books by our next guest. We're so excited to welcome best-selling author, writer, producer, actress Alretha Thomas to our broadcast today. She's joining us for the first time here on Amazon Live. I've interviewed her several times on Conversations Live, the radio show. I'm joined by my co-host today, Melissa Banks, Kate Thurman, and Stacey Thomas. We're going to talk to Alretha about her extraordinary career, what it's been like for her to do what she loves in so many different ways, and make sure you guys are staying connected with us. And notice I didn't mention the show. I know a lot of you guys have gotten to see Alretha on That Being Assisted Living. I know our co-hosts are going to ask her about that. But Alretha, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited and thrilled to be here. This is absolutely wonderful. I just wanted a favor, being that it's Cancer Awareness Month,
Mhm.
and my aunt, my mom's sister, one of my mom's younger sisters, she recently transitioned on September 1. I want to dedicate this show to her, Lily Word, if that's okay.
Of course, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. We definitely sorry for your loss, and be praying for the family as well. And I think let me just start there before I turn it over to the co-host Alretha, because I think the thing about you and she and I were just talking. We've had several interviews together, but it's our first time being together on camera here on Amazon. You have had such an extraordinary journey. What has it been like for you, Alretha, to kind of reflect on what led you to where you are now in 2024?
Wow. It's amazing. It's humbling. And I just have to thank God for my journey. Because when I met you in 2008, I was still working in corporate America, and that was my first book, as you know.
Yeah.
I didn't even really know what I was doing, but I had a passion, knew I always wanted to write books. And I stayed in corporate America. In the back of my mind, I knew I wanted to come back to acting because I made my foray into acting in the mid 20s right after graduating college. So to go back and look at that point from the mid 80s when I first started out, leaving the business for 23 years and then coming back in 2016 full time, it's mind boggling. I can't believe it, and I can't believe the success I have. But then again, I can because God is faithful
Yeah.
and he rewards those who diligently seek him. And I'm just humbled. I'm humbled by the journey.
Well, and you always do give credit where I know I give credit to where credit is due, and that is to God and what He's been able to do for us as well. More I want to talk to you about, Alretha, especially when it comes to the brand new book, The Daughter Between Us. We're going to get into that, but I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to our friends here on the program, starting with Melissa. Melissa, it's all yours.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Aretha. Thank you so much for this time, and thank you for sharing that with us. It's such an honor to be on the show with you and to dedicate it to not only your family member, but a lot of us who have lost others to people we love to breast cancer. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that. So
sure.
I want to begin. Aretha, oftentimes we begin doing something that we love and we just believe that we're supposed to be doing it and doing it that way. One of the things that jumped out to me when I was preparing for the day is your journey, how your journey began in journalism,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Say journalism was it. What did you discover? That it just wasn't in your heart. That was just not it.
Well,
But
it's so true. My sister and I talk a lot. And I always say that, like your DNA that you have, when you have a baby, how tall that baby is going to be is already set in stone. It's in the DNA. And so I believe what we're going to be in life is already set in our DNA, and we have to find our way. And because it's set, you can't run from it, you can't hide from it. Now, when I went to college, I wasn't thinking about acting, although I had a lot of friends that were in the drama department in high school. I went to Dominguez High School. And I would watch them and I secretly envied them. But I always thought to myself, I'm too practical to go into acting because it's precarious and I don't want to be waiting on tables. So I'm going to be a journalist. There was a journalist named Angela Black. She was a Black woman in LA, and I looked up to her. And of course, I looked up to are Barbara Walters and Oprah Winfrey and people like that. And I felt I wanted to be a journalist. I thought that that was the way to go, not being naive, not knowing that that's somewhat entertainment too, and very difficult to break into. And when I graduated from college, we were in the worst recession. And so how it works in the journalism marketing, because I majored in broadcast journalism, so I wanted to be in front of the camera. So you go to the small market, way out in the boondocks somewhere, and you work your way up to the major markets like New York and Los Angeles. But the thing is that because of the recession, people weren't leaving those small jobs, so they weren't available. So I was knocking on doors that weren't opening. I was so desperate. I reached, there was a TV station in Alaska. I kid you not. I was canvassing that TV show and talking to the general manager and trying to get a job in Alaska. I was willing to go to Alaska. That's how bad it was. And so I had to eat. So I had to get a regular job. And I did that. And I started working my regular job. And the people, they would say, well, everybody has dreams, but it may not be for you, because they wanted to keep me in those jobs, right? But I knew in my heart of hearts that there was something else for me.
But Aretha, one of the things that I love about you is recognizing in your heart that that wasn't it. But that you didn't stop there, because you also did some modeling, right? Somebody told you to be a model, and you did that too. But that wasn't it either. But
it wasn't. And
but
what's so funny about that? I was at a live taping. Now I'm dating myself. I was at a live taping of the Jeffersons, right? And someone saw me, a producer there, and said, "You're beautiful. You could be a model." And that's how I started dabbling in modeling. But that didn't work out. And they told me I'm 5'7", 5'6.5", 5'7". And they said, "Oh, you're too short," and they poo-pooed me. That was before America's Next Top Model. Maybe I'd be a model today if that had existed back then. But no, the modeling wasn't it. I was slowly inching my way to my destiny, which was, as you know, writing and acting.
And that's the key, is you went there though, but you knew that wasn't it, but it led you to what was your heart, which was acting. Talk to us a little bit about that part, Aretha, how important it is to recognize where your heart is and be willing to make the moves and the decisions necessary to get you to where you want to be.
I think it's very important, because in the long run, you'll be happier. A lot of people choose professions based on the dollar sign. They get into professions because they can make a lot of money. As I told a friend recently, I've never been money driven. I've always been passion driven. And so it has to, I think you'll be happier, because if you go into something to make money, you're going to be miserable and you're not going to be successful. That book, that cliche that says, "Do what you love and the money will follow," it's so true. I think it's very important to stay in that and to be true to yourself. I worked in corporate America. I saw a lot of miserable people. I saw people throwing tantrums and cursing me out. I was cursed out, before in corporate America. And I looked at those people, and I could tell they were in it for the money. They were quite wealthy. I worked at investment banks, so I worked for millionaires. But they were very unhappy because they weren't doing what was truly in their heart. And I think that's why it's imperative that you follow your heart.
Oh, I so agree with that, because I always say, if this is for money only, then it will not sustain you through those tough days, those days that you have to push through. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Another thing that jumped out to me, though, is that because acting was in your core, you knew you wanted to act. However, you did step away from acting for a little while, but you always knew you would return.
Yes.
Return, you did, in such a big way. During the pandemic of all times, I can relate to, because so many things happened during the pandemic that caused me to do things I never thought I would do before, but opened up so many doors to my dream. But you got that big call, and that big call was from Tyler Perry's Assisted Living. Talk to us about that process, pulling away and having to come back, but that magic moment when you got that call.
Boy, you have done your research. Okay. Well, what happened, as I mentioned, I was working in corporate America. I had been working in corporate America for about close to 25 years. Yes, in the back of my mind, I had this idea that one day I would go back to acting because when I first started, I would try to do auditions on my lunch break, and I was in a wreck spiritually, emotionally, and in all those ways. I had a very challenging, went through a lot in my childhood. I saw a lot of horrible things and went through a lot. And so in my early 20s, I started acting out because of that. I lost my mom. When I was 14, she was only 36. I had been molested. I had been scalded when I was 3. I went through a lot. But God kept me. And I always say, I'm not a victim, I'm victorious. And so in the back of my mind, I knew I would come back. I ended up getting married. Matter of fact, I just recently celebrated 25 years of marriage to Mr. Leroy Thomas. Bravo to him and me for that and God. But I got married. So I was married at the time, and I went to my husband. I said, honey, would you be okay if I left corporate America and went back to acting? And I said, if I can make the math, if I can make it make sense. And he said, sure. And so I did. And I was able to take a one-time distribution from my 401k. And I stepped back into it in 2016. Now, what was crazy was I had this huge gap in my resume. I still have footage from the 80s. So I got an agent my first year out, and I got a regional commercial. I made money on it for 2 years. I started getting under fives. That's like under five lines on different soap operas. Things were starting to take off. I was writing my books, and it looked like I was on my way. And then, as you know, the pandemic hit. And I was like, wow, no, this isn't happening. Right when I was getting ready to get started. And so I even reached out to my old bosses for reference letters because I knew I was going to have to go back to work. And then in October, I got this audition and it said assisted living, Tyler Perry assisted living. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that show a few times. And they wanted an actress, someone older than me. And I immediately thought about Felicia Rashad. I said, oh, they're just going through the motions with this. Even though I had read for Kim Coleman before, I had auditioned for a million things with her, never got it. So I'm just like, okay, this is run of the mill, they're just having me, but they have somebody else in mind. So I had put it completely out of my mind. And the phone rang and I picked it up. It was my agent. And she said, they're going to be making us an offer tonight. And I didn't even know who she was talking about because I had completely divorced myself from the project. And I said, huh? Who? She said, oh, Tyler Perry's assisted living. They want you for the role of Anastasia Devereaux. I'm telling you, if the roof wasn't on this house strong, it would have went up into the sky because I screamed and I was like, it's God, it's God. It was totally unbelievable. And also because I had taken a workshop a few months prior, and I remember being in the lobby and I was the oldest one there. And I kind of said, I want a series. And they all looked at me like I was crazy, like, how does this old bag think she's going to get a series? You know, but God saw that. I spoke that into existence. And the next thing I know, I was being flown first class to Atlanta, and the rest is history. And 2 years after that, they made me a series regular.
Oh wow, that is so amazing! I will never forget this line. I am not a victim; I am victorious. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing so much. I'm so thrilled I got a chance to speak with you today, and I'm going to toss it over to Kate to finish up.
Thank you, Melissa. It was a joy.
Hi, Alretha.
Hi.
My condolences to start out. Let me say my condolences to you.
Thank
and
you.
I love you on Tyler Perry Assisted Living, right?
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. So I wanted to ask you, is there a particular scene or episode that stood out to you, especially as challenging or meaningful?
Yes, I first just want to say, I want to give a shout out and thank you to Mr. Tyler Perry for creating this iconic character, Anastasia Devereaux. She is so multidimensional. I also want to thank our directors, Mark Swinton, Derek Deuce, Justin Bones. I feel such an honor to be on set and work with the comedic genius, David Mann, and the beautiful actress and talented Tamela Mann, J. Anthony Brown, Naeem Lynn, Courtney Nicole, Damian Lee, Chet Anakwe, Taylor Buck, Alex Henderson. We have an amazing cast, and I have to pinch myself when I go to work. I'm like, I'm around all these wonderful, amazing, talented people, and it's crazy fun, and it's like sometimes I feel guilty for getting paid. I'm having so much fun. But the episode that stands out to me that I love, there are many, but one that I really love is the one called Training Day. and it's where Taylor Buck is trying to get a scholarship for this elitist club. And she's kind of clueless about which fork to use and how to eat at the table. And so Courtney Nicole, who plays Leah, she's there and she kind of falls in place like I'm training her too. And it's so funny. And so I tell them, I said, well, you have to learn how to ballroom dance. And they start doing all kind of wild dances and everything. And then I have to tell them, this is not a Courtney video. But that episode, I had so much fun filming. And then there's one other one I love with David Mann, and it's where I hypnotize him, and he becomes one of his favorite 70s Black film heroes. And it is just, we had a ball with that episode.
Yeah, I love that episode. Thank you for sharing that. I laughed. I think I watched that episode over and over and over. Wait a minute. Hypnotize him. I want to know, what advice would you give aspiring actors or actresses that's trying to break into the industry?
I would say to, first of all, hone your craft, study your craft. As I mentioned, I studied journalism, but when I realized that was not my calling, I began studying. I studied with a gentleman named Joel Asher, who's a director, and I studied with him for 5 years. And I took classes when I was at SC. I took acting electives. Daryl Hannah was one of my scene partners. And over the years, I've taken workshops and labs. And I think that's the number one thing. Be prepared. Know your craft. Because if I hadn't known my craft when they call me, we wouldn't be having this conversation right here. So that's first and foremost. And have the right intentions when you're going in. As we said earlier, if you're doing this, become rich and famous, you're in the wrong profession. Because it's hard. It's very hard. It's competitive. Especially like for me, for my age, coming back and having a big gap in my resume, a lot of my co-stars, people that are in my generation, like your Vivica Foxes and Angela Bassett's, they have huge credits. I don't have those credits, so it's a little more challenging for me. So if I was trying to do this for rich and fame, it's not going to work. So you have to do it because you love it. You have a passion for it. It gives you joy. Hone your craft and know that you love it. Those are the two things that I would say.
I love it. Well, thank you for hanging out with us, Ms. Thomas. I'm going to hand it over to Stacy.
Thank you so much. Bless you. Hi, Stacy. Hi. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. And I joked, I said, okay, so my married name is Thomas. So I'm wondering if you related to my husband's people at all.
I'll start looking it up.
I'll
start looking it up. It's so nice being able to talk to you and meet you here. And I'm sorry about your aunt. I truly am. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the woman that you are. So I love your character. I say she's bold, classy at the same time, and beautiful. But it's you that I'm really interested in. It's the Alretha Thomas, because when Cyrus said that we were going to interview you, I immediately said, okay, there's more to her than the show. So I went on your website and I looked at your blog. I read some things. Okay. So you've worked what I call a normal 8 to 5 job. You were writing books, wishing for publishing deals that never happened.
Yes.
And while working, you're in the file room or in a room dreaming about acting.
Yes.
And yet you left your job.
Yes.
Because you reminded yourself of God's words, God's promises.
Yes.
As humans, we do that. But my question for you was, how hard was it for you to believe and not give up?
Okay, Oprah Winfrey Jr., you're making me cry here. Wow. I think when God puts a desire in your heart and your ministry, it's a ministry, and you've been called. Jonah tried to escape. He got caught up in the whale's belly. You cannot escape what God has put in you. And you're right about it's bigger than a character, because it's bigger. It's a bigger thing. It's a ministry. It's about loving on people, giving people hope. encouraging people, letting people know that you may have come from an abusive background. Don't give up. Like there's an episode I did with Tamala Mann where it says, she tells me, her character core says, your latter days will be better than your former days. And that is so true, because the life I have now is nothing like the childhood I had. I used to remember when I would wet the bed and I would be terrified because I didn't even know I wet the bed. I would just wake up and the bed was wet. And I knew it meant I was going to get an extension cord bead. And I used to say, the day I stop wetting in the bed is going to be the most amazing. My life will be amazing. That's how low my bar was. I said my life will be amazing the day I stop wetting the bed, because then I don't have to get beat anymore.
I'm sorry.
I had no idea what God had for me. I had no idea that I was going to have the life I have today. And he says, when you stay with him and you walk with him and you run with him and you believe and you trust. I accepted Christ when I was 11 years old. I was baptized when I was 13. They call me Bible Girl in high school. And because of the trauma that I had, I acted it out in my 20s and I went wild. But God brought me back in the fold. He brought me back. And I got back in my word, and I got back living the life that he had for me, and my life changed. I celebrated 25 years of marriage to a beautiful man on September 18th. I have a home, I have my health, I have friends, I have people like you and Cyrus in my life. I have an amazing life. And I'm here not to live for myself, but to be there and to help others. And God has blessed me to do that over these years, to give back emotionally, materially, monetarily, spiritually. I have been able to give back. And that's my ministry. And I'm so grateful. And it's because of God that I stayed the course, only because of him.
Wow. Well, I've got some good news. At least I think it's good news. You're still blessing people.
Oh,
Because as I read your blog, you made me feel like the way I feel when I miss Sundays at church, and the day I go, I look up when the pastor starts talking and I say, God told him to say, Stacy's here. And your personal blogs, you had one where you were talking once again about being the executive secretary.
yes.
You were talking about how you felt. You told how you left your job and you didn't have an acting job.
No.
So just like you're on this platform now being vulnerable and sharing your true self, why? That's my question. Why tell so much?
Because people need to hear it. We need to be an open book. People need to hear it, because social media, we're inundated with social media. We're inundated with gloss and floss and people in Mercedes and people on the red carpet and people in jets and people living large. And then you have people that are suffering. There are people underwater right now. There are people dodging bullets in the Middle East. And I think about how it makes people feel. Wow, how unfair. Why do they get to live like that? I want people to know that I didn't just get here. It hasn't always been this way. So that means there's hope for you too. That's why I share so much. So that the person that's going through what I went through or even worse will know, oh my God, this isn't, it gets better. That this isn't the best it gets. So that little boy or girl who's under the house or running from that extension cord beating, that feels, why was I born into this family? Hello, I'm right here to let you know it's going to get better. Don't give up 5 minutes for the miracle. If this happened for me, if this is a life that I was able to have, you can have it too and more. And it's not just about, please don't get it twisted. It's not just about being on a TV show or material things, because there are people that have won all kind of awards, that have walked the red carpet, that have millions and have killed themselves. That is not going to make you happy. It's knowing who you are, knowing that you're a child of God, that you are worthy regardless of what you have. The fact that you're here, you're worthy. Your trappings don't make you worthy. If you have nothing, you're worthy. We're all the same. No one is better. I'm not better. No one's better than anybody. We're all children of God, and we're all the same. And you have intrinsic value, and know that. Know that your value is not contingent upon the degree, PhD, whatever you have behind, it's not. You are valuable because you are. That's my message.
Look at God setting Aretha up with Stacy to get her straight today. I would like to end this with, I'm thankful for you.
Thank you.
Keep doing you. And tell my possibly, perhaps cousin, I said thank you for having your back.
I will. I will.
I'm gonna pass it to Cyrus now. Have a good
God
night.
bless you. You too.
Thank you for that, Stacey, and thanks to Melissa as well as Kate as well. Great questions. Alretha Thomas, I want to
Okay,
read.
so Cyrus, you got these women on here having me cry. What you doing? Where you find these women from? Okay.
Look, I only surround myself with the best, Alretha. You know that.
I mean, they got me crying over here. Okay.
I want to reset real quick and say welcome everyone to Amazon Live and Cyrus Webb and Friends. You just heard there from Stacey Thomas, Kate Thurman, Melissa Banks. Our guest is the one and only Alretha Thomas. You know her as a best-selling author, writer, producer, and actress. We've been talking with her about the journey. Alretha, if you don't mind, I want to get our audience caught up with these comments that have been coming in while you've been on with us on Amazon. On Amazon, they're saying, getting your books now. Congratulations. The fact that you guys on Amazon. Over on Facebook have a lot of comments coming in. Doris Dancy says hello to you. Tanya White says about you, Jesus, powerful testimony. Annette Davidson says you're amazing, Alretha. I think it's pronounced Vivian. Diane Neal says you're an amazing woman. Daquita Moore says thank God for keeping you. Annette Davidson said she's spreading hope. And Tanya mentions what you said, that it gets better. And Doris says you have given so many of us hope and encouragement, and we are grateful. So I want to talk about that, Alretha, because as you mentioned, you and I connected back in 2008 with the book, interestingly enough, there was a novel entitled Daughter Denied. How does it feel to know that what was meant for you was not denied of you?
Oh my gosh, that was my first book, and as I said, I didn't know what I was doing, but that book moved people. It moved people. And yes, I wasn't denied. As much as that other dark force tried to deny me by trying to take me out at 3 years old and in other times in my life, God said, no, she will not be denied. And it's amazing to not have been denied and to be able to live and to be living my dream, writing books, encouraging people through my books and acting and, being there for people. I'm reading someone's book right now. And it's their memoir and it's an amazing read. It's powerful. It needs work and they need encouragement. And I'm just glad that I'm here and I'm able to do that. I couldn't be doing that if I was still tied to the desk on a 9 to 5. So I'm just glad that God put it in me to step out on faith and to receive what was mine and to not be denied. And I wasn't denied.
Yeah, and I think the great thing is, as I've been following you, and I should say for our audience, and I appreciate Melissa as well as Stacey and Kate talking about the show. I'm not going to spend my time talking about that because Alretha and I have always talked books. So I definitely want to talk about books. If you guys have not gotten her newest book, The Daughter Between Them, definitely pick it up. I want to talk about Barbara and Leslie in the new book. I'm going to highlight those on the Amazon side, Alretha. Because this book, one thing about a book by Alretha Thomas, you can expect the unexpected. And there's always more than what meets the eye, whether we're talking about Four Ladies Only that you guys see here, The Baby in the Window, one of my favorite series, of course, that Alretha was able to write, Losing Lauren and others. You always give us that twist. What has that been like for you? It's one thing for you to be a part of others' productions, Alretha. What has it been like for you to create your own productions through the books that you write?
Oh my goodness. It's so cathartic, It's beautiful because I love telling stories. And when I'm telling the story, and I'm a big reader too. I love to read. B.A. Paris, I love her. Doris Dancy's a wonderful writer. I've read her. Vivian, I've read her. I love coming up. I start off a story, I write from the inside out. A lot of people say, well, what gave you the idea for that? It's like something is put in me. And then I have to tell it. I have to tell this story. And I start off with the idea, and then the characters start crystallizing, and then the story starts crystallizing. And one of the things I found, I had a big turning point when I wrote, I have to say, The Women on Refuge Drive. I had a big turning point. And what I used to do when I would write so many pages, I print it out, I read it, make changes, go in, write so many pages. And one day I got this thing like, I feel like I'm limited, restricted by doing that. And I stopped printing pages, and I stopped doing that. And I just wrote. And what that did, it opened up a whole world because I wasn't afraid to make changes. Ideas would come and I would go and I go at it. And I didn't worry about pagination or this or that or how long. I just did it. And my writing went to another level. And the other thing is, I like to do red herrings. I make you think it's this person and it's not. If I feel like I'm looking at it as a reader and I say, okay, no, this seems like too obvious, then I'm going to take it a different place. And any writer will tell you that your characters will take over. Oh, my characters, they take over all the time. And they start taking me places I never thought. And when I start, there are times when I'm writing and I'll be in a scene and I'll start crying. And I'm in that scene and I'm living it. And I'm like, sometimes I'll say, wait a minute, is this somebody else's life, some real life that happened eons ago or on some different dimension that they are using me to channel their life story? I feel like that a lot of times because these characters, I don't know where they come from and they're so real.
Yeah. Well, you definitely have been able to create some great stories and some great conversations. And Alretha, it's been so great being able to have you on. Again, everyone, Alretha Thomas has been our guest. The newest book is The Daughter Between Them. Make sure you guys get it here. Have it highlighted for you guys on the Amazon side. But the other books you guys see here, also I have in the carousel here, Justice for Jessica, another one of my favorites. You guys can see it there on Amazon. The Girl in the Blue Blazer is another great one. You really can't go wrong with any of the books there. But I will say it all began for us with Alretha and myself with Daughter Denied. And it's been great being able to watch her, being able to rise and shine in that time. Melissa, Kate, hello to you. Thank you again for the great conversation.
Thank
Stacey,
you, ladies.
conversation with you. And Alretha, let our audience know how they can stay connected with you.
If you go on my website, alrethathomas.com, there are icons that will connect you to TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can get me there on my website, alrethathomas.com. And I have to say that The Daughter Between Them was given a star review by Kirkus Reviews. And I'm really proud of that.
Love it. Karen Walker says, we're so proud of you. Glad you could join us, Karen. And Alretha, looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you. It's been a ball.
All right. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb and Friends. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.